All right, welcome to our explainer. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most foundational stories in Western culture, the story of Adam and Eve. But we're going to look at it in a way that might just change how you see it forever. It's a fresh take on the fall that's less about a single mistake and honestly a lot more about us. So let's just kick things off with a pretty wild question. What if the story we call the fall wasn't actually a fall from some perfect state? What if it's telling a completely different and maybe even a more profound story? Okay, let's get into it. The interpretation we're exploring today suggests that Genesis chapters 3 through 11 isn't really about one bad day in a garden. Not at all. Instead, it's this epic narrative about how relationships work, the real risks that come with freedom, and the incredibly messy path toward getting things right again. Now, this slide really gets to the heart of the shift. The view most of us know is that the fall is kind of like a legal problem, right? A rule gets broken and a punishment is handed down. Simple. But this other argument sees it as a relational problem. It's about a breakdown of trust that just snowballs. So in this view, humanity isn't born evil or fallen. We're just immature, trying to figure out what to do with all this freedom.
So where does it all begin to go wrong? Well, it starts with the very first crack in the foundation of everything. And believe it or not, it has nothing to do with an apple. It's actually about a question that plants a seed of something totally new and corrosive into the world: mistrust.
And that brings us to this idea of the originating sin. Now, forget the idea of it being some kind of inherited guilt. Think of it as an action. It's the moment humans decide to mistrust the goodness of their creator and creation. You see the difference? In this telling, sin is a verb. It's something you do, not something you are. And really, this one question is what it all boils down to. It's not about a simple rule, don't eat the fruit. It's a massive test of the relationship. Can you trust that there's goodness at the heart of things, even when you can't see the full picture? That's the real challenge here. But here's the thing about that first crack of mistrust. It doesn't stay small. It starts to spread. It goes viral. What began as this little internal doubt quickly spirals into real-world actions with devastating consequences, turning that tiny crack into a giant chasm that threatens to swallow up everything. And you can just watch it happen, right here in the text. It starts in Genesis 3 with some simple mistrust and blame shifting, but by Genesis 4, that family drama explodes into the first murder, Cain killing Abel. Then it gets even worse. You have Lamech literally bragging in a song about getting revenge. And by the time we get to Genesis 6, this has gone from a family problem to a full-blown global crisis. And this is the result. That little snowball of mistrust has become a massive avalanche of violence and corruption. And the text is super clear here. It's not just a few bad apples. It says all flesh had gone corrupt. The very project of creation is now in serious jeopardy, not because of some cosmic evil, but because of human choices. So, this is where the flood comes in. And it's so often painted as this act of a furious, angry God. But in this interpretation, the story is completely different. It's framed as an act that comes from immense divine sorrow, a tragic, painful decision to uncreate and reset everything, just to save the world from total self-destruction. This quote really captures how complex this moment is. This isn't about wiping the slate clean in a fit of rage. Yeah, there's judgment, but it's balanced with this deep desire to save, to preserve something. The response is full of regret, a commitment to justice, but also a profound sense of mercy. God is trying to salvage the project, not just scrap it. So we can kind of break down the flood's purpose into these 4 stages. It all starts with that divine sorrow we talked about. That leads to a necessary purge, a washing away of the violence that had infected the whole world. It's almost like a symbolic return to the chaotic waters before creation even began, which then allows for a total reset, a new start with Noah and his family. But after the flood, the world doesn't just snap back to being the Garden of Eden. It's not a rewind. Instead, what we get is a whole new reality with a new kind of promise to govern a world that everyone now knows is flawed and pretty fragile. And this is where we get the Noahic covenant. Now, there are 2 words here that are absolutely crucial: unconditional and all flesh. This promise isn't just for people, it's for every single living thing. And this is the big part, it doesn't depend on them being good. God basically commits to sticking with creation no matter how flawed it is. So this is the new normal.
God isn't looking for perfection anymore. The whole relationship is, as the source says, recharacterized. It's based on God's promise to endure, not on humanity's ability to be obedient. It's a promise of stability for a world that has proven itself to be anything but stable.
But the story's not over. That fundamental tension is still there. Just look at the Tower of Babel. It's humanity, yet again, trying to build its own perfect world on its own terms, trying to make a name for itself and secure its future completely separate from and in mistrust of anyone else. The cycle continues.
And that kind of leaves us here. Looking at Genesis this way shows that creation has always been at risk because of our choices. It's not some ancient story that's over and done with. It's a dynamic that's still very much alive. Which really brings the question right back to us, doesn't it? In this still fragile world, what's our role in its future?